No, live. It says live.
This is great.
I know. The surprise. It's just like, yeah. It's actually like.
So I often get people kind of come up and say thank you. So I guess it's important for me to speak to them. That's how much it's
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
And then
I know you.
I texted her this morning. I was like, sit down. Like, there is no need.
I just actually gave her a warning right now. You need to walk away.
You want to sit down.
If you are centralized, there's going to be a problem.
and I think that okay, we're doing it all in. If someone can find
Not to mention the ones that
Sabbaticals in Indian meditative or meditative trauma away.
usually what they actually have like
sorry, after you. Jake's coming.
So Mike's giving you the full four corners treatment for a quick grab.
So
That's great.
Excuse me, just be careful that you don't accidentally bump the telephone.
Sorry, mate. We've promised this gentleman we're not going to interfere with his shot.
Of course.
Yeah.
Let it go and then start it again.
This seems too good.
Oh, this one.
Yeah, I'm assuming. I'll just check. Hey, how's it going?
Is that okay?
Yeah, where are you from?
ABC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On your check.
No, something as a second mic. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, then I grabbed that one.
Yeah.
I
If they think that like ready, sometimes very racing, I get it to like, whoa, that's like, that's another market in there.
So I reckon Tracy's
Yeah, I prefer to go.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
No, I just take it for now. I just want to
And all it takes is for one person to keep the tripod.
Yeah. Protect the tripod at all costs.
Flimsy things, but it's kind of nice and light to have for the body. I don't think nothing heavier than this.
I think it's also
I'm just saying, you don't have to. It's hard to do. Yeah. I mean, you let that ride over. I had to take that
I stopped doing it like
I mean, I your hands fall right off.
Hey, how you going? Good to see you. You check the tripod.
Your thing.
Free Palestine! From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
Always was and always will be!
Aboriginal land.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon everyone here today. I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and the custodians of the land in which we meet today and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. In the midst of everything that's happening today around the world, we're here today to commemorate the day of the Nakba. And as many of you know, this is the day when over 700,000 Palestinians were displaced from their homeland of Palestine in 1948. There isn't actually a specific date on which the Palestinians were kicked out of their homeland. It happened over a period of time, but today is chosen as a day to commemorate those events. And while it may appear irrelevant to celebrate, to commemorate an event that is specific to the Palestinians from about 78 years ago, the relevance of this day becomes obvious once we understand the true meaning of a Nakba. And as some people may understand it as the catastrophe in English, the meaning of a Nakba manifests itself in the lives of those who suffered it and went through it. The lives of Palestinians that have been displaced, the millions of Palestinians that are still displaced as of this day. Allow me to share with you a brief story about a man called Muhammad Ali, or better known as Ali, who went through this Nakba. In 1944, Muhammad Ali was born in the city of Jaffa, a city that has been inhabited or is inhabited for millennia. One of the oldest cities on the planet, on the land that's called Palestine and has been called Palestine, referring to the Palestinians who have inhabited it since the 12th century BCE. By the time he was 4, a man by the name of Menachem Begin was leading a terrorist Zionist group called the Ergon, besieged the city of Jaffa and started bombarding it. This is the same man that was a few weeks before that committed the massacre of Deir Yassin. Under the bombardment and the besiegement of this Zionist group, they kept bombarding it until the inhabitants, the Palestinian inhabitants, would leave. Ali, or his father, had a little boat in the port of Jaffa. He put his family in the boat and had to leave and went to Gaza, where he would seek refuge and would live as a refugee with the rest of his family for the rest of their lives. Menachem, who bombarded the city, will become one of the founding fathers of Israel. And later on, about 30 years later, he would be elected by Israelis to become the Prime Minister of Israel, where he was responsible for the Sabra and Shatila massacre. Because it seems the more inhumane and the more human crimes you commit, the more likely the Israeli society would elect you as a Prime Minister. This is the same man, and his party, the Likud party, is the same party that leads Israel today under the leadership of Netanyahu. Ali, on the other hand, would grow up in Gaza, which was under the leadership or under the authority of Egypt, and he would be given a document called Egyptian Document for Palestinian Refugees. This document was meant in theory to facilitate the movement of Palestinians, but in practice it was not even worth the ink it was written in, for you needed a visa to even enter Egypt, the very country that issued it. He would grow up in Gaza, and by the time he finishes school, he traveled to Egypt to seek his higher education. Then later on, he would move to Jordan to marry his wife, Mdallala, who shared an identical story with him, for she was displaced from the West Bank in '67 in similar circumstances. Years would go by, and he would get his higher education. Like many Palestinians around the world, millions of them, higher education meant it is your passport, it is your residency, it is the ticket that gave you a location that you can live normal around the world. Because with that, you would get employment, and with employment, you would get work residency that would allow you to live and become a human like the rest of humans. He would do that, and he would move from one country to the other around the Middle East, from Libya to Yemen, to Jordan, to the UAE, and so on and so forth. In 1987, his fifth child would come around. His name is Basil, or Basil, as some people would know him. When his wife was pregnant, because she was from the West Bank, she had Jordanian residency. So the plan was to send her to Jordan so she can give birth to Basil in Jordan, in the hope that he wouldn't inherit the same refugee documents that Egypt gave him. But contrary to his plan, the Jordanian government did not agree, and he ended up with the same document. Years would go past, he would dedicate his life, he'd work hard, and he would live, as hard as he can to raise a family of six kids, with the fear of losing his job because it meant he would lose his residency. Years would go by, his kids would be scattered all over the world, similar to his brothers and sisters, whom he would never meet, and eventually he would make way as a refugee to Australia. Today, Muhammad Ali lives in Australia, a land that he doesn't mean much to him. He's only made it here because his family or his kids could bring him here. And until this very day, he's still a refugee. Until this very day, he doesn't even know why he's here. Until this very day, his issue is not resolved. Today, Muhammad Ali suffers from dementia. He doesn't even recognize his own wife. But ironically, he still remembers the flag of his land. Whenever he sees the flag of Palestine, he knows it. He still tells me about his homeland, about the clock in the middle of Jaffa. He still tells me about the bakery next to their house. He doesn't know why he's here, but he believes that one day, even though he might not make it back to Palestine, his children might do that with the help of those who fight for the Palestinians. I'm telling you this story not to feel sorry for Muhammad Ali, not to feel sorry for his family. As a matter of fact, Ali has done much better than millions of Palestinians today. Millions of Palestinians that are still living in tin sheds in the refugee camps in Jordan and Lebanon and Syria. Millions of Palestinians that are being denied the very basic human rights of a homeland, of self-determination. Millions of Palestinians who can't find work, who can't get education, who can't travel and move freely around the world to establish themselves. Millions of Palestinians that are still suffering in silence behind the flags and events and men in suits and the conferences of peace and so on and so forth. There are millions of Palestinians like Ali who are suffering in silence and no one knows about them. They know that there is a group of Palestinians that are being displaced, but they don't know the true suffering that these Palestinians have gone through. They don't know about the families that are being torn apart. They don't know about the young kids that can't go to school. They don't know about the youth that can't find education, proper education and work rights. They don't know about the families that don't know each other or can't communicate anymore because they're scattered all over the world. They don't know about any of that, and you don't see that on the TV. That in itself is the true meaning of a Nakba, the catastrophe, the human side of the Nakba, the true practical side of a Nakba. That there are millions of Palestinians, 78 years later, still denied the most basic human rights that should be inherent rights to every human on this planet. And the relevance of that to what's happening today is that what happened to the Palestinians is still happening today. It is still happening in Gaza after 2 years or more than 2 years of a genocide. It still happens in Gaza with the millions of Palestinians displaced in Gaza itself, who themselves, more than half the population of Gaza itself, were refugees to start with, and they are still being displaced today. It is still happening in the West Bank as we speak, as of right now, where Palestinian land is being stolen and Palestinians are being denied the most basic human rights in the West Bank. And it doesn't, and that relevance extends well beyond the Palestinians. It goes to the people of Lebanon as we speak, where hundreds of thousands of Lebanese are being displaced in their own form of a Nakba. It happens to the people in Iraq, and it happened to the people of Iraq and Afghanistan. It happens right now to the Iranians, and it happened to this land, to the Aboriginals of this land. At the core of, or at the common ground between, at the core of all of this, the common ground between all of this is an ideology that sees the Palestinians less human. The only reason that displace the Palestinians and deny them their rights is because to them, to the Israelis, the Palestinians are a lesser race. They're not entitled to the same rights. They're not entitled to the same equalities. And that same mentality and that same ideology is what makes the bombing of Lebanon happen. That's what makes the suffering of the Iraqis and the Iranians. That's what's made the suffering of the Aboriginals of this land. It is this ideology that goes to the extreme, of believing that another human is less human, simply because they are different to you in religion, in color, in ethnicity, in how they speak or in their ideology. And it is for that reason we need to commemorate the day of the Nakba, so that we remind the world that if we cannot solve the catastrophe of the Palestinians, how on earth can we solve the catastrophe of the Aboriginals, the catastrophe of the Iranians, the catastrophe of the Lebanese, the catastrophe of every suffering human, the catastrophe even the catastrophe that happens to every one of us here on this land when we suffer with the cost of living at the hands of billionaires that see us as less human, at the hands of right-wing politicians that want to divide us, at the hands of extremists that want to build barriers so that they can divide and conquer. It is for that reason we commemorate the Nakba, to tell the world that until the Palestinian catastrophe is solved, we will continue to fight for the Palestinians as much as we will continue to fight for all oppressed people all over the world. With that in mind, today we'll be hearing from a number of great speakers. Most of them I don't think need an introduction, but we'll have a few speeches here and then we'll walk all the way to Flinders and have a couple more. Our first speaker is someone who doesn't need much of an introduction. She is an Aboriginal Australian independent politician. She has been a senator for Victoria since 2020 and is the first Aboriginal senator from the state. Give it up for Senator Lydia Thorpe.
Thank you for having me here today. Our day of catastrophe, our Nakba day, happened in 1788. When the colonisers' ships arrived here and held my people at gunpoint. They rounded us up and they started their massacres. Today, over 200 years later, yes, we have intergenerational trauma. We've had our land stolen. We've had our babies stolen. They continue today to steal our babies. They continue today to lock our people up. Mass incarceration of Aboriginal people right across this country. The prisons in the Northern Territory are full of our people.
Shame.
In one children's prison, all of the 10-year-old babies are Aboriginal babies. And most of our children have not even had their day in court. They're sitting in the cells, being strip searched, being tortured every day without even having a sentence. That is the ongoing genocide in this country. When they target your babies, they target your women, while they steal your land, they rape your land, they rape your women. That continues today. And we have survived, and we will take it back. And if anyone out there does not understand why we as black people in this country stand every day with the Palestinian brothers and sisters, then you don't know your history. So on that note, I will acknowledge that we're still on stolen land and genocide still continues. We are on Wurundjeri Woiwurrung country, and I'm a Gunditjmara and Djapurrung woman, Gunai woman, grandmother. And I stand with those mothers and grandmothers of Palestine. I wish these anniversaries could be events of healing. But the Nakba is not over and continues to this very day. Despite the official ceasefire, Israel is continuing to break the truce and launches attacks on Gaza. It is killing and attacking people in the West Bank and further extending its illegal settlements. Sounds familiar. The illegal colonial occupation is in full swing, unstopped by the international community. Shame. Today I want to focus on women and children and the impact of genocide against us. It is not one that will be contained to the current generation, but will continue to impact the lives of Palestinian generations to come. Gender-based and sexual violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinian women and girls in the West Bank is a devastatingly common and very effective weapon. It's a weapon of genocide. This is a state-sanctioned violence as Israeli forces present do not interfere or investigate such violence. This sexual violence doesn't occur in isolation, but operates within a coercive environment that contributes to the forcible transfer of Palestinian communities. Have you ever imagined what it is like for a woman to carry, birth and breastfeed a baby during a genocide? Pregnancy and breastfeeding are so demanding on a woman's body as it is. But what must the body go through to nurture this growing little being when it's not been enough to sustain itself? There has been an incredible number of miscarriages and stillbirths during this genocide, robbing Palestinians of a next generation. And what is this government doing about all of this? Oh, yes, they are. Yes, they are. They've just announced in the federal budget $600 million for an anti-Semitism Royal Commission. They are ignoring the racism that we face every day in this country when we've got Nazis storming our sacred sites. They're ignoring the rise in racism towards Palestinian people and anyone who is not white in this country. The Closing the Gap budget is $720 million to address the genocide against us. Yet the Anti-Semitism Royal Commission is only $120 million left. Where is the equity? Whose side is this government on? Did they have the Zionists at their budget night party? I'm sure they did. So this government is not only complicit, this government is bowing to the Zionists. So as a mother and a grandmother, it breaks my heart that so many Palestinian mothers are surviving and dying at the hands of this genocide, and this complicit government is fueling that genocide. My love, my heart, my strength, my resistance is with those mothers and those babies every minute of every day, because I feel it in my heart as an Aboriginal woman who sees this happening to my people every day. And they are complicit in the genocide against us. They even have your own people jumping on the bandwagon. So we must continue to stand together and fight every genocide everywhere, because we are bigger than colonisers' headquarters in Canberra. And if Palestine is not free, then none of us are free. Free, free Palestine!
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 Yes, indeed, it is a common denominator between those who have oppressed the Aboriginals here and those who oppress the Palestinians. It's the same ideology, a similar ideology. Not dressed differently, but they're all colonised and they're all displaced and they all commit atrocities in one shape, way or form. And that is why we need to fight for the Palestinians as much as we fight for the Aboriginals and vice versa, and all oppressed people. To touch our next speaker, to touch on some of the plot that's happening to the Palestinians, is a Palestinian Australian general surgeon from Melbourne. She travelled to Gaza in June on 3-week volunteer medical mission of PANSMA, the Palestinian Australian New Zealand Medical Association. She was based in Al-Shuhada Al-Aqsa Hospital in Deir Balah. Give it up to Dr. Bushra Uthman.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon everyone. I stand before you today on sacred Indigenous ground of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and I acknowledge any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today, including my sister Lydia. Every day I become a little bit more aware of what it means that sovereignty was never ceded. Friday the 15th of May 1948. 78 years ago, Palestinians were driven from their home carrying keys they believed they would soon use again. Those keys became heirlooms, those homes became memories. And the word Nakba, catastrophe, became not only a moment in history, but a living condition passed from one generation to the next. 78 years later, as Gaza burns and families once again carrying children, blankets and fragments of their lives through rubble and smoke, we are forced to ask, when does a catastrophe end if it never truly stopped? Some of you will know that I'm a Palestinian Australian. I was born in Kuwait and I've spent most of my life here in so-called Melbourne. I trained as a general surgeon and I spent 3 months over the last 2 years on medical missions in Gaza. There are some words I have come to understand much more deeply since those experiences. I now understand them at a visceral level. They are no longer abstract themes that are relevant to Palestinians, but a weight that has settled in my heart and bones. Erasure, ethnic cleansing of bloodlines and generations. I think about the 2,500 Palestinian families wiped off the register for eternity. Shame. Dispossession, displacement. I think of Dr. Tariq and his pregnant wife and their 2 young daughters, who were given 10 minutes to exit their home before it got demolished. I think of Dr. Rajab, who sent his wife and son to Egypt for their safety, but remained in Gaza to fulfill his duty as a surgeon. Occupation of body, of mind, of land. I think of my relatives in the West Bank, who were herded through cages when trying to move between cities, who were not allowed to enter Jerusalem with us because we had Australian passports, but they do not have freedom of movement. My paternal grandparents are from Koinonia, a village near Jerusalem, which was erased and destroyed in 1948. In the 1960s, they migrated to Kuwait, like many other Palestinian families who who made difficult decisions about prioritizing safety over their homeland. I think of my teta, my grandmother, who is still in Kuwait, who can never return to set foot in her beloved Palestine because Israel has ensured that she is to remain in exile, who cried with both concern and pride when she heard I made it into Gaza on my first medical mission. Her own granddaughter, her own blood, doing something she can only dream of. I think of my maternal grandmother, who is from Sinat al-Bahar. I remember our family visiting my great-grandmother's house in the mid-1990s, and I can picture the garden and the courtyard of the home that my grandmother was born in. Each time I would exit Gaza and stay in Amman, my grandmother would recount stories of her childhood and mention how her family was in charge of harvesting oil from the olives. The house remains, but it is under Israeli occupation. Nakba translates to catastrophe, but there is another similar word I became very familiar with in Gaza, and that is karithi. This roughly translates to disastrous, but it means much more than that. Like when Israel bombed Al-Baqa Cafe and the Al-Shifa Emergency Department emergency floor was scattered with body parts and bodies and blood. Like when Dr. Nazar's generational family homes in North Gaza were bombed to oblivion, and how his elder brother was stationed in their last remaining house and was martyred by a missile strike only minutes before the ceasefire took effect. Of how we could barely find gloves and sutures and operating rooms for the hundreds of patients surviving Israeli violence. Or to see my friends and colleagues collapse from exhaustion and starvation after 4 months of food being prevented from entering Gaza. Bearing witness carries responsibility. I think of the amana, the trust that I have been given by the people of Gaza to have heard their stories and their heartache and shared in their grief, by my grandparents and parents and the Palestinian blood that runs in my veins. I've had time to sit with and try to reimagine what commitment to the Palestinian cause can look like, how to hold Israel and people to account and how to demand accountability, how to amplify stories and raise awareness. One such project is an anthology of experiences from Australian and New Zealand healthcare workers in Gaza. My dear friend Aviva and I, and she who founded Readers and Writers Against Genocide, are editing this collection. It is a truth-telling exercise and documentation of Israel's genocide in Gaza. Please keep an eye out for the book in a few months, inshallah, when it will be released. In the end, one thing is absolutely clear. It's about choice. Israel has been forcing Palestinians into impossible choices for decades, between safety and homeland, between education and survival, between healthcare and bombardment, between dignity and displacement, between staying and living. And we too are making choices. The choice not to look away. The choice to remember when the world demands forgetting. The choice to amplify Palestinian voices when others try to silence them. The choice to speak when silence has become complicity. The choice to act in our hospitals, our universities, our unions, our streets, and our politics. Because solidarity is not a slogan, it is a responsibility. And as long as Palestinians continue to resist erasure, continue to mourn, continue to survive, then we too must continue to witness, to advocate, to challenge, and to demand justice. From the river to the sea, always was, always will be.
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free.
from the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Indeed, accountability is important. Yes, we gather, yes, we commemorate, we go out on the streets whenever we can, but every individual is responsible to do whatever they can within their capacity to advocate for the rights of the Palestinians, for the rights of the Aboriginals, for the rights of oppressed people. That responsibility befalls on everyone within their capacity, whether it's in university, in the school, in the workplace, anywhere you go, even by a word or a post or whatever you can. It's only through that accountability and that responsibility that we can propagate the causes of those oppressed people. And one of those people is a senator in our government or in our parliament who has always been an advocate for the rights of oppressed people. He's the Green Senator from New South Wales and the Australian Green spokesperson on justice, digital rights and defence, foreign affairs and migration. Prior to being elected to the Senate, he was an MP in the New South Wales Parliament and a chair of the Public Accountability Committee. And as the Australian Greens defence spokesperson, he and his team have been instrumental in exposing the toxic AUKUS deal, as well as the Australian involvement in the supply chain of the F-35 fighter jets used by Israel to commit genocide. Give it up to Senator David Shoebridge.
Well, thanks everyone for coming out today, and I too want to start, as Senator Thorpe and others have done, by acknowledging this is First Nations land. And when you go and you advocate with the Palestinian community and their friends, and you understand that connection to country and land and culture, we need to acknowledge the ongoing genocide against First Nations peoples on this land. And I just got back from the NT as part of a Senate inquiry into the appalling youth justice disaster across this country. First Nations kids being whisked from home and country, put in torture-like conditions in jails. And if that's not a military occupation of the Northern Territory and parts of this country to steal resources and steal culture, I don't know what is. So let's commit to acknowledge this is First Nations land, to end the crisis of youth justice where kids are being taken and stolen from family and country, and to demand the Australian government so you can't torture First Nations kids, and to close First Nations kids' jails. Close them across this country, wherever they are. But this is now 8 decades of Nakba. 8 decades of dispossession and violence. And there's no one day where the Nakba started, there's no one day where the Nakba ends, it continues. But what we should acknowledge is that it began in terrorism. It began in violence, in ethnic cleansing, in genocide, in the destruction of villages, the killing of and raping of women, and the violence against the Palestinian people, and the world stood by and let it happen. And we hear, stories, alternate stories about how the State of Israel was created. But we will not forget the truth, that it began in violence, began in ethnic cleansing, it began in terrorism, and we see the truth for what it is. And that's part of what we're doing today, to acknowledge the Nakba, the reality of the Nakba. But we've continued to see this so-called ceasefire. It's not a ceasefire in Gaza, and it's never been a ceasefire in Gaza, and it's not a ceasefire in the West Bank. There are kids who were going to school in the West Bank who were shot dead by settlers with the military standing beside, not a decade ago, but a week ago and a month ago. Families who wanted to connect and catch up with relatives on a drive home, stopped and gunned to death in their car by the Israeli military. That's not a matter of history. That's a matter that's happening now. And what we see with our government is basic silence. Silence and complicity, as Israel is now creating a fresh Nakba in the south of Lebanon. Silence, complicity, but ultimately support. And sometimes you ask yourself, well, how is this happening? How is a government that's meant to be representing us, concepts of democracy and human rights and freedom, how is it that we can continue to supply weapons parts to Israel? How is it we buy weapons from Israel that they've tested in Lebanon, or they've tested in Yemen, or they've tested in Gaza? How is it that we don't just buy small amounts. We're buying billions of dollars of Israeli weapons tested on the Palestinian people. Contract signed under the Labor government. How is this happening? And I think we're getting a lesson in how the world works. For so long, there's been this convenient narrative of the rules-based order, that we sign on to this agenda led by the United States, which is about democracy and freedom and international order. And that has never been true. It's always been about power. It's always been about privilege. It's always been about resources. But it had this patter, this sales pitch that we all listened to, and some of us accepted. But who can look at the war on Iran now and pretend it's about democracy or the rule of law or international law? Who can look at the obscenity in Gaza and pretend that it's about any of that? We see the truth now. It's about violence, it's about oppression, it's about power, and it's about corporate interests. And now that the mask has been ripped off, we've got to ask ourselves, what do we do? Will we continue doing this? And we tell the truth about the Nakba. And we continue doing this, and we stand in solidarity with First Nations peoples in their fight for liberty in this country, and we stand in solidarity with Palestinians wherever they are standing and resisting the occupation. Of course we do that. But then we need to ask ourselves, how did this country get in this position? How are we just a lapdog, worse than a lapdog, a complicit player in US violence across the world? Because that's what's happening here. The US sees Israel as an unsinkable aircraft carrier in the Middle East, and do you know what? They are increasingly seeing Australia as an unsinkable aircraft carrier in their war on China in our region too. The same powers, the same forces. So what do? Well, we organise here too. We organise here to do things like to kill the AUKUS agreement. No more US troops. And we convert hundreds of billions of dollars from nuclear submarines and US weapons platforms to health and education and climate action and international solidarity. That's what we do. And we stop pretending that we can change the Labor Party. We start organising to replace the Labor Party. And I don't care if you're green or you're purple or you're pink, let's join together and stop pretending that Albanese or Wong or Richard Miles can be persuaded to do the right thing. We need to replace them. And if you want proof positive that every time when they make a statement, it's nothing more than a social media meme, there's no substance to it. Just on Friday, on Nakba Day itself, myself and my Greens colleagues in the ACT joined together with the Palestinian ambassador to organise a Nakba breakfast in Canberra, in the heart of our democracy. And I want to thank the ambassador for coming, and I want to thank the Palestinian community for coming for that breakfast on Friday. But I'll tell you this, we were there acknowledging the Palestinian ambassador, his role and the role of the embassy in representing the people of Palestine. And we know it's complicated. But you know, our government pretended to recognise Palestine. Do you remember that? Yeah. When hundreds of thousands of people walked across the harbour bridge, tens of thousands gathered here, hundreds of thousands across the country, and we forced Labor to move, or so we thought. And they recognised Palestine, or so they said. Do you know the Labor government, Penny Wong, has still refused to accept the Palestinian ambassador's credentials in this country? They refuse to call him an ambassador. They refuse to even acknowledge the existence of a Palestinian embassy in here. And they continue to say things like, we're not going to move until other like-minded countries have moved. Well, even the United Kingdom has acknowledged their ambassador and their embassy. France, Canada and others. Our government is captured by Washington. Our government and its foreign policy and its defence policy is owned and run not out of Canberra, but out of Washington, and we should acknowledge it for what it is. So now the mask has been ripped off. Join with us. Join with the millions of Australians who want to cancel the AUKUS agreement. Join with the millions of Australians who want a government that stands for peace and democracy and actually commits to supporting Palestinian rights. And let's show that commitment to Palestine by changing our country too. So thanks so much for coming out. Thank you for telling the truth. We will end the Nakba. We will free Palestine and we'll free our country while we're at it. Thanks very much.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
It's quite amazing in David's speech how he mentioned that these people trial their weapons on the Palestinians, on the Iranians and the Yemenis and Iraqis to make millions out of them. A bit like when they release a new medicine or something and they trial it on animals or mice. They do that, but they trial weapons on humans so that they can use their artificial intelligence and their programs and software and components to make billions of dollars at the handful of some billionaires at the top. And that is why we need to fight these people, not just for Palestine, but for all other causes, and to understand that these parties are led by corporations. They only care about their money, their pockets, and they're in bed with all these bosses, you know, that bankroll and their, you know, donations to their political parties. That's why that fight is an Australian fight. It's a homeland fight here in Italy, in Europe, in America, everywhere, for Palestine and for others. And the only way is not to fix those parties, not to fix those people, but to replace them with someone with principle, someone that cares about you and me, that wants to end the cost of living crisis, the housing crisis and those crises that affect us here at home. And at the core of that is, as David mentioned, is a disconnection from the government of the US that is dragging us, that has brought shame, you know, to our government that participated in the genocide of the Palestinians. If we keep that connection, giving them millions and billions of dollars and dragging our foreign policy to what aligns with Washington, we will end up, you know, suffering ourselves here in homeland. So that is why we fight, and that is why we need that change, and to take that to the streets, to the voting booths, and wherever we can to fight those corrupt parties. Our last speaker for this part of the rally will be a non-based Palestinian activist. For 12 months he sat at the steps of the Victorian Parliament calling for an end to the atrocities and demanding that the Australian Victorian government take action to demand justice for Palestinians. His activism and determination led to the formation of the Sixth Intifada. Welcome to the stage, not Uncle Ihab, but Jiddu Ihab.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Always was, always will be. Not loud enough. Always was, always will be.
Aboriginal land.
Always was, always will be.
Aboriginal land.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Of course, with knowledge, we're standing here in stolen land. The Wurundjeri people. This land being stolen more than 250 years ago, with the genocide, with Nakba, started here. And it's similar Nakba happened in Palestine. When we talk about the Nakba of Palestine, it's mistaken, we think it's happened 78 years ago. It's happened in 1920. And the first definition of Nakba came in 1920 after the British colonizer and the French colonizer decided to divide the region to small regions and occupy the countries down there and decide to become brutal towards the indigenous. Anyone would try to, the guys in the back, stay quiet a little bit to listen to what we say here, please. Anyone try to stop against their occupation of the country, either death penalty or jail. Steal the resources of the country. Then top it up by creating what's so-called Israel and Palestine. And they're saying, as a Zionist, that's your country, it's a base, you can stay here, you can maintain and serve us. Our speech today about the history, to learn from it for the current, the present, and what we can do in the future. And again, it's two parts. One part for us here as a Palestinian diaspora, other part as humans everywhere, how you can do it. Palestinians in diaspora first, we don't forget who we are, where we came from. Our resistance, it's been by our DNA until we go back to our country and we defeat the Zionist regime and we free Palestine as much as we free Lebanon, Syria, from the river to the sea, Palestine, and every centimeter of that land, we will make sure no Zionist, no occupier will remain there. To do that, I urge the Palestinians, carry the stories the way how my mom and my dad, my grandma carried it to me. Every day, link your struggle day by day to your child. Don't think if you told him the suffering of what's happening to your people, it's going to traumatize him. No, it's going to strengthen them because we are so strong here. I born in a refugee camp, as many millions of Palestinians born, and we're strong, and we resist, and we have no such thing called fear in our heart, and we have no trauma whatsoever. I pass this to my children and now to my grandchildren. Another one called Hazim. Thunder sound. Another thunder. Like every single Palestinian in Palestine and outside of Palestine, thunder. Thunder going to wipe off the Zionist regime, all the Zionist regime from Palestine. For the Palestinian in Palestine. We suffer, we struggle because we can't be with you. But we do the best to assist you and support you. You are our hearts, and we know you maintain that land. That's been, it is the wedge to destroy and make sure the roots of the Zionists, what's so-called Israel, does not go deep in that land. The land of Palestine rejected their roots as much as you are. Make sure anyone try to go down, take it out and throw it. We say to the world, we have the full right to resist in Palestine by every single means, including the weapons, including the firearms. It's our right by every means, regardless of international law or not international law. It is the right of the humanity. If we get attacked or killed, we have the right to resist. The Nakba is still going because the ethnic cleansing is still happening in Palestine every single day. If that's the Nakba. Is the killing still happening in Palestine every single day? If that's the Nakba. Is the jailing still happening in Palestine every single day? If that's the Nakba. That's therefore we have the right to resist and support the resistance everywhere. Now for the rest of the people here in this land, the stolen land, we have two main elements to work with. First, our rights as a human, as a free. It can't be completed until we give the indigenous in this country their rights. We can't feel good as a human until we work hard and fight for them in every single way and every single means. To do that, you have to remind yourself every morning when you wake up, I feel down, I feel exhausted. What should I do to get my energy again, to start again from the beginning? And the only way to do it, to think, if that you the one with a breast or a threat, you're going to be quiet or you're going to fight. You're going to stand up. You're going to rise as a mountain. And what you can do every single thing from the morning when you sit with your colleague. Talk about it. Talk about your humanity, about your right, about the indigenous, about Palestine, about the red indigenous back in USA, in America, what's called America. 125 million people slaughtered in USA, if you don't know that. Talk about all these things because that's what makes us strong. Because we have to increase our number to decrease their number. Don't underestimate any action. Don't feel down from the negative around you. 22 days ago, a small story, take a bit of time. I've been blessed by grandchild. I decided to go to my work where I work in train station, more than 150, 180 guys workers there. Took this week to share my happiness with them. What do you think was the outcome of this? More than 60% was racism. More than 60% refused to take a sweet or say from me, congratulations. From 180 guys. Colleagues, I work with them every single day. I sweat with them every day, but that's never put me down. Because I want the 40%, and I know from the 40% going to go further and further. That is my message to you. Do not underestimate. We want you, because a lot of you never knew about Palestine 2.5 years ago. That's our achievement as people suffering. We look at the positive, never look at the negative. Probably took a long time. It's a story, I can continue with it. I have to finish here to start the marching. Please do not engage with these idiots. The Zionists behind us and throw them away. Because they're nothing for us, we don't see them, they don't exist at all. From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the sea to the river!
Palestine will live forever!
From the sea to the river!
Palestine will live forever!
Yes, Palestine will live forever as long as we breathe. And the death, that's what we're waiting for, to free Palestine. See you guys!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine! As we say, we'll stop marching to Flinders Street. Make sure you ignore the agitators. We're here for a great cause. Don't give them time. Don't give them attention. Focus on what we are here for and keep screaming. Let everyone hear it. Let everyone know. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
How are you going? Yeah, I'm just looking at your cake and I can't find any change in my pockets. I'm looking at your cake and I can't find any change in my pockets.
Is this your phone number? Just my phone number. The brown? The brownies. They're for the big
continues today through the
You're the TikTok expert.
I'm me now. Mike said it at the meeting. I can't get out of it.
You're it. Yay. Finally, we have
11
somebody.
followers, mate. 11 followers you picked up.
Oh, that's good.
We're seeing this part of the Royal Commission not allow Jewish voices to rise up and speak against Zionism. We're seeing now in the sham of the Royal Commission Palestinian voices be ignored and excluded. If we're talking about social cohesion to state, if we're talking about social cohesion, it should include every voice, every person, every walk of life, every person of color, of creed, of kind, of mind, and of heart. That is what social cohesion ought to be. But what we're seeing is an exclusive voicing to propagate and upstand and support and back the fascist Zionist entity. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism is against a fascist political identity that has caused the loss, anguish, tears, and every single potential war crime committed on this earth against the Palestinian people. That is what anti-Zionism is. There is no room for anti-Semitism. There is no room for anti-Palestinian racism. There is no room for racism against black people. There is no room for racism against indigenous people. There is no room for racism against immigrants. There is no room for racism against the Asian community. There is no room for racism against the South Asian community. There is no room for racism, period.
Are you still in the force? Are you still in the force? Are you still in the force? Yeah. Oh, good.
You do not beat racism by putting one community over the top of others. That will not create social cohesion. What that will do is put everybody at stake. It will put everybody in fear. It will put everybody in danger. And none of that works. What we fight for, the Palestinian movement, is liberation and justice. We fight for equality. We fight for land. We fight for the right of return because we are the just people. We own that land. My grandfather on his deathbed called out for his land, for Tida Dendan, for his people. We do not forget. We will not forget. And we will certainly not forgive for all the atrocities, for every single drop of blood spilt, every single drop of Palestinian blood spilt on our lands. Our roots are deep, our trees continue to grow, and we will rise up. Every single one of us will return. If we don't return, our children will return. And if their children don't return, their children's children will return. We will continue to fight every single day, with every single power in us, with every single breath, with every single voice, with everything that we have. We will fight until Palestine is liberated. There are no ifs, buts, or maybes. You may be tired. We are
to you. Min al-Mayed means from the river to the sea. When we say Palestine Arabiya, we say Palestine is Arab and indigenous to Palestinians. And when we say Israel Irhabiya, Israel is a terrorist state.
upstairs? No, down the central. One of us going to be there. Okay. The VIP room. going.
Actually a bit skeptical about the numbers for today, but none never disappoints when it comes to Palestine. And all other just causes as well. One thing that comes to mind as we commemorate the Nakba, and as we have seen the Nakba of the Palestinians for close to 80 years now, as we've seen the genocide against the people of Gaza for the last 3 years, as we see another Nakba happening in Gaza and the West Bank, another Nakba happening in Lebanon, and many other Nakbas that are happening right before our own eyes, the real, as catastrophic as that may be, the real Nakba, the real catastrophe is when we accept and normalize the suffering of those people. When we accept that politicians can go and bomb people to oblivion and we don't do anything about it. The real catastrophe is if we remain silent while people are being oppressed. If we remain silent while families are being torn apart, why people are being displaced, that is the real catastrophe. And that is what we need to remember from today. If there is one thing to remember, that for as long as oppression occurs, whether it's on this land, on any other land, anywhere on the planet, with our power, we will rise up and stand up against those oppressors. We will always fight for the Palestinians and all other oppressed people, because we cannot allow another Nakba to occur. We cannot remain silent while another catastrophe is taking place right before our own eyes. And that is that reason that keeps us going. rain, hail or shine, we will turn up for Palestine and we will turn up for all oppressed people. We'll have a couple of speakers with us to wrap up the rally for today. Our next speaker is Yasmin Atiyah, who is a Palestinian student, a member of Students for Palestine at the University of Melbourne. Please give it up to Yasmin.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea! Hi, my name is Yaz. I'm a Palestinian socialist in Students for Palestine, and I'd like to talk about what's happening in Gaza right now, because the Nakba hasn't ended, and the repression that is currently happening in Australia against this Palestine movement. In Gaza, thousands of Palestinians have been killed since the so-called ceasefire, and millions have been displaced from Lebanon. Shame. Last week, Israel action strikes to murder water engineers in northern Gaza. Shame. There are Palestinians in dire need of medical supplies with no hospitals to go to because Israel has bombed all of them. Shame. There are Palestinians relying on our voices to keep speaking up for them. So it's very important that we're out here today. It's been over 2 years of genocide. What has the Australian government done in response? Not cut the ties with the apartheid state, not cancel its partnerships with weapons companies or the US Department of War, but instead send one of its own military wedge-tail spy planes to the Strait of Hormuz. Shame. Australia is part of the imperialist slaughter happening in the Middle East, which is why instead of stopping their complicity, they attack activists who try to stand up to genocide. In Queensland 2 months ago, they banned the phrase "from the river to the sea," a slogan adopted by the Palestine movement to call for freedom for Palestinians, freedom from oppression and apartheid. From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free! I think it's important that we keep saying this. In Queensland, over 20 people have been arrested. Shame! But this is part of a broader attack on political free speech against the pro-Palestine movement. Universities are one of the sites of attack for this. The envoy into anti-Semitism on campus, Julian Siegel, came up with a Trumpian-like grading system for universities on how well they address anti-Semitism. But when you look at the actual criteria for addressing it, it talks about displaying flags, the encampments which students put up to protest their university's ties to weapons manufacturers, and basically how well universities do to silence dissent or criticism of Israel. Shame. Recently, Greg Craven, who has been put at the head of this process, came out to accuse all universities of failing at enforcing discipline of students who breached the controversial IHRA definitions, which conflates criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. Shame. These proposals echo those adopted by the Trump administration in their authoritarian campaign against university campuses, surveillance, censorship, and the threatening of funding if unis don't comply. They must be stridently opposed, and we must point the finger at the Australian government, who are more offended at the calling out of this genocide than actually being complicit in it. Shame. It's important, like Basil said, that we keep standing up for Palestine. Throughout these 2 years, it's been students, workers, and ordinary everyday people who have taken the mantle of Palestine, keeping our voices loud when our governments and institutions would like nothing more than to sweep their complicity under the rug. We live in a capitalist world where lives mean nothing when profit and power is involved. If the price of controlling trade routes and resources like oil and petrol is the blood of millions of people, then that's just the price of doing business for our rulers. Shame. You can see this not only just in Palestine, but here too. The Labour government planning on cutting more than 150,000 people off the NDIS to increase their military budget. Shame. because the world will catch up with you. And one day when you're asked, what did you do when the genocide happened, you should be able to say, all that I could. So keep getting involved and fighting for a world worth living in. Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
Free, free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmin. Our last speaker for the day is Noura Mansour, who is a Palestinian mother of two, an educator, political analyst and community organiser from Akka in Palestine, living on unceded Wurundjeri country. Please give it up to Noura.
From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free!
from the sea to the river.
Palestine will live forever!
Thank you everyone for being here with us to commemorate the 78th anniversary of the Nakba. We're here today because we refuse to normalize genocide. We are here today because we refuse to accept that the torture and murder of children is something normal that happens at the backdrop as we go about our daily life. And I can't help myself reflecting on this really important question of how did we get here? How did we get here? 78 years of ongoing ethnic cleansing, 78 years of crimes against humanity, 2.5, almost 3 years of live-streamed genocide that spares no one. Not even the premature babies in incubators were spared. How did we get here? And the answer is, we got here because the international community made a political decision to normalize the establishment of a white Jewish supremacist state on my ancestral land. We are here because the international community normalized crimes against Palestinians in 1947 and 1948. They normalized destruction of land. Over 530 towns and villages were destroyed. Over 75% of the Palestinian people were denied, were exiled, and denied their right to return. Countless massacres, including sexual violence that we see now perpetrated by Israel against the Palestinian people. This is 78 years old. And it is because in 1948, the United Nations, the international community, and when I say international community, I make a distinction between the grassroots and the official level, the political level. It's because international Western governments made a decision to accept crimes against my family as necessary to establish a Jewish state. This is why we are here today. Because of Zionism. Because Zionism as a settler colonial ideology is a Jewish supremacist ideology that denies Palestinians the right to exist as indigenous people on their ancestral land. It is responsible for the ethnic cleansing, it is responsible for illegal and inhumane occupation, it is responsible for the siege on Gaza, and it is responsible for the genocide against 2 million besieged population in Gaza today. That is Zionism. And it's not to be conflated with Judaism, which used to be part and parcel of the Palestinian social fabric before 1948. So we are here today because we reject normalization of crimes against humanity, because we're here today because we reject settler colonialism and the impact, the devastating impact that it has on occupied, colonized people and colonized lands. And we are here today because we are hopeful that together we can achieve anything.
The Nakba as a concept and as a practice targeted not only Palestinian lands, it targeted Palestinian people, the peoplehood, the society, the social fabric of the Palestinians were disrupted. Palestinians were fragmented and divided into compartments. As a result of the Nakba, we have 6 million Palestinian refugees residing outside of their ancestral land, denied their right to return home, despite the fact that the right of return for Palestinians is a United Nations resolution. 6 million refugees. We have 2 million Palestinians living on their ancestral land who became internally displaced people and were denied their right to return to their demolished towns that is 5 minutes away from where they currently reside as citizens in 1948, territories that were occupied in 1948 by Israel, by the Zionist militias. 2 million Palestinians, Israeli citizens, who are discriminated against with over 70 laws, including the right of return, the right to family reunification, and land ownership. This is citizens. Palestinians, 2 million Palestinians who make 20% of the population in Israel. Indigenous people. We have 3 million Palestinians living under apartheid, military occupation in the West Bank, surrounded by checkpoints and apartheid walls. Subjected to all sorts of violations and abuse by Israeli settlers, who are provided protection by the Israeli state. Not only protection, they're also resourced and supported by the Israeli state. Israeli governments, different types and kinds of Israeli governments, have always been supportive and protective of Palestinian illegal Israeli settlers on Palestinian lands in the West Bank. And we have 2 million Palestinians, besieged Palestinians in Gaza, living under illegal and inhumane siege, where Israel used to count their calories, denying them the right to live freely and equally on their ancestral land, denying them food, denying medical supplies. And then, as we witnessed 2.5 years ago, daily bombardment, targeting every person, every human being alive in Gaza, targeting civilian infrastructure from universities to mosques to hospitals. That is peak Zionism. So it is important then, now that we understand how Zionism works, that is based on fragmentation and division of the Palestinian people, so that people cannot unite, so that the Palestinians cannot get together and work towards liberation, so that Palestinians cannot get together with other people, other indigenous people, and work on anti-colonial projects. How do we decolonize? Creating compartments where Palestinians are also blocked from connecting with other people around the world. This is how Zionism and settler colonialism actually works. So we are here because we refuse to let division and fragmentation rule. Us here is a reminder that they are terrified of our unity. They are terrified of our unity because they know that Palestinian unity, indigenous unity, people unity is a formula that they cannot counter. This is how we win. This is how we win. Palestinian unity, indigenous unity, and people unity. The people united. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. United will never be defeated. alongside us, for being here with us, for refusing to normalize what is clearly immoral, what is abhorrent, for being here to protect humanity. Thank you. We look forward to seeing you in our next rally for the Nakba Day. Stay up to date, follow our socials, talk to your friends, keep doing the good work that you're doing. We need you alongside us. There's a lot of work that we still need to do together. And that work is not finished. We know that far right is starting to gain popularity. But we also know that we are here together to fight against all forms of racism, from Zionism to white supremacy to all kinds and forms of racism. This is what being a Palestinian means. So free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Shukran.
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
As Noah mentioned, our next rally will be on the next day. We'll be commemorating another Nakba that happened to the Palestinians, and that'll be on the June 7th. So please mark your date, continue to turn up. It is important that we send the message that we will not accept this normalization of oppression, we will not accept normalization of genocide and normalization of oppressing people anywhere in the world, including the Palestinians. So mark your day, turn up the next time, talk to your colleagues, talk to your friends, talk to your family, continue to work in your own capacity. Doesn't have to be in the streets. You could be in parliament, in councils, at workplaces, in schools and universities, wherever you can. You are the voice of those who are being oppressed. You are the voice of those who cannot be heard. You are the voice of those who the media are silencing. So continue to turn up, and we cannot accept normalization. It is a crime and they'll get away with it. Remember, it was Labour in 47 that were in power that put forward the partition plan of Palestine. It was Labour in power that accepted, and we're the very first countries on the planet to recognize Israel. So they made top dress their, look in suits and top dress their names and slogans, but in reality it's the same ideology and it's the same colonialist mindset that wants to see indigenous people displaced and lose their right to self-determination. So it is important that we continue to turn up, to work however we can, wherever we can, and continue to tell them that Palestine will be free from the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Always was and always will be! Thank you.
We're marching back to the state library. If we get the trolley at the front, please.
Thanks everyone, signing off now. Keep up to date with what's going on. Check out our socials. We've always got events, cinema screenings and so on.